Good evening everybody. So today we are starting a new chapter, that is acid, bases and salts. So what are these acid, bases and salts? Are they natural or man-made things? So we all know that the chemicals which are present in this nature is categorized into atoms, molecules, mixtures and compounds. So we know what is compound. A compound is a combination of two or more elements of same kind or different kind which are combined chemically. So chemically is their chemical properties will differ. It will change once they form into a product. So we know that in the previous chapter, that is chemical reactions, we have studied that magnesium reacting with sulfuric acid, which gave us magnesium sulfate and hydrogen gas evolution. So there was an element, and again there is a compound here which both combined, and we got a new product here. So now this product has a different chemical property. If you compare this with the original magnesium or the sulfate ion which was there with the sulfuric acid, it differs. The chemical properties what these two had is different compared to the product magnesium sulfate. So this is called a compound now. This was a compound and this is a new compound form. Now, so again these compounds are categorized into three groups. Okay, so they are acids, bases, salts. So all acid, base and a salt are a compound which has different properties. Now let us understand what is an acid, what are the properties that it exhibits. Let us conduct some activities and experiments to understand how they react with different things. Now let's say an acid reacting with a metal and with a carbonate ion. What happens once they react? Okay, we will understand everything in detail. So in this chapter we will be studying about different types of compounds. Those compounds are categorized into acids, bases and salt, and their reaction with other compounds. Okay, so as I told, acid, bases and salt. Before getting into the actual definitions of those, how do we identify them? Now if we have to identify a male and a female, there are some physical characteristics. Looking at that we can identify. But what if a male also dresses like a female? Then it is quite difficult for us to examine or to identify. So we can conduct some experiment, or we can do some activity like testing their DNAs or checking some samples of their hormones, like that. So which is practically proving who is whom. So here also, by looking at compounds, we cannot say this is an acid or a base. So we conduct certain experiment, or we have a kind of indicator which shows us which is an acid and a base. So we need to first understand about what is an indicator. So what is this indicator? While we drive our vehicles, if we have to turn to a right or a left, how will the person coming back to our vehicle know that this person takes a right turn? So we apply an indicator which is a signal that you are moving towards your right side. So since that light is glooming or which is blinking, which makes the person to minimize his speed so that he will not come and hit our vehicle or he will not overtake. Similarly, here there is an indicator. There are some signs which will be shown which proves acid, base and salt. So what is an indicator? An indicator is a dye. Okay, it's a kind of color. Okay, this dye will change when it is put into solid base, so acid base, it gives a different color. Now let us say there is an indicator which is a color. If it is put in an acid, this contains acid. So this is the indicator paper. Okay, if you put it in that, it will change into what? From blue to red. It is a litmus paper which is called a natural indicator. Litmus paper is an indicator. If we put that in an acid, it turns from blue to red. Similarly, if there is a base given to you, we don't know whether it is a base or not. once you put that litmus paper, it turns from red to blue. So how to remember this? So I always remember A, P, R and B, R, B. So any one clue should be there. So B, R, B is a clue which starts from B, ends at B. That is, a base turns red to blue. Okay, if you know this, the other one is easy. Opposite, right? From blue to red. So this is an indicator, litmus paper, which is a natural indicator. So how do we define this? An indicator is a dye which turns color from one color to another color when it is put into acid or base. Next. So what are some of these indicators? So one, as I told, litmus paper. And there are also some chemical indicators. Chemical indicators are which is man-made. This is a natural one. This is a man-made. Those are phenolphthalein, methyl, orange. These are chemicals used in laboratories to check whether the given solution is an acid or a base. Okay, we'll understand how they perform. To which color do they change the acid? If they are put it in an acid, what color does the phenolphthalein change or the methyl orange change? Now, so a methyl orange indicator gives red color when it is put in an acid. Again, as we saw when litmus paper was put in an acid, it gave us red color indication. Blue color turned into red. Similarly, methyl orange is basically orangish in color. Okay, hence the name orange. So if that liquid is put in an acid, it changes to red. So orange change into red. What happens if it is put it in the base? It will not change to blue, but it will change to from orange to yellow. Okay, so an acid changes methyl orange from orange color to red, whereas the base changes from orange to yellow. Okay, that is methyl orange property. Next, phenolphthalein. What does a phenolphthalein do? Phenolphthalein is a colorless liquid. It is like water. Okay, so you would have okay, people now are using sanitizers. Sanitizers are basically colorless, right? They are kind of like, it looks like water. So phenolphthalein is also quite similar to that. When it is put in an acid, it changes. It remains colorless. When phenolphthalein is put in an acid color remains colorless only. It will not change. Okay. Then the same phenolphthalein, if it is put in a base, it gives a pink basic solution. Okay. Phenolphthalein is easy to remember. A colorless liquid remains colorless if it is put in an acid. Whereas the phenolphthalein, which is colorless when it is put in a base, turns into pink. Okay. Now let us recall that. Litmus paper, what does it do? If it is an acid, it changes from blue to red. Here, from red to blue. This is litmus paper. Next, methyl orange. What does it do? Orange color turns into red if it is put in an acid. It turns into yellow in a base. Whereas the phenolphthalein, which is a colorless liquid, remains colorless if it is put in an acid. Whereas in the base, it is pinkish in color. Okay, a small table will help us remember. Okay, now let's move ahead. Okay, so again there is another indicator which is called universal indicator. Okay, which tells us, which gives us more clarity, which will be studied in the later of this chapter. Okay, so now litmus is a natural indicator, whereas the phenolphthalein and methyl orange are chemical indicators, or it is like man-made indicators. There is, you would have seen the lichens, okay, lichens or lichens, greenish growth near the watery surface. If you see the gutters or near the sumps or tank, near where the water is clogging for longer duration, you can observe greenish growth of it's a kind of algae. Okay, so those lesions are also a kind of indicators from which this litmus purple dye is extracted. Usually litmus paper is purple in color. Okay, this purple changes, which is a neutral color. When it is put in a acid, initially it turns into blue and then to red. Whereas in the base it is red to blue. Basically litmus paper is purplish in color. Okay, there are some natural available indicators which are extracted from few vegetables. So if you see cabbage that we use normally is greenish in color, but there is a kind of cabbage which is reddish in color. Not Indians will not use that much, but the other abroad countries or foreign countries, those people will use a reddish or purplish kind of cabbage, from which again indicators will be extracted to check acid and bases. Okay, and turmeric is also a natural indicator. So that is why if there is any gastritis problem, so people will suggest consuming the turmeric in their food, which will help or which will induce the digestion, which is again an acid-base reaction in the stomach. Okay, so turmeric is also a natural indicator. Then, okay, so we have olfactory indicators. We have studied this in control and coordination. Olfactory is the ability to sense the smell, isn't it? So by when we are conducting an experiment which includes an acid or a base, a kind of odor will be generated or a smell will be generated. Depending on the odor, we can again decide what is the given solution is. So we'll read that. So the substances whose smell changes in acidic or basic solutions are called olfactory indicators. Look at the diagram. So we are talking about olfactory indicators. 558. Okay, those normally okay, those are substances which changes the smell in acidic and basic solutions. Okay, these are called olfactory indicators. So onion and vanilla extracts are olfactory indicators. So if you see the onions, when you fry or when you cut onions, you get tears because it is acidic. Okay, so there is a kind of acid which is present in the onions. So that is an example for olfactory indicators. The smell which you get, the onion smell. Okay, similarly the vanilla extract, which will be used for ice creams or for preparing cake or pastries, the vanilla essence, that is also a kind of olfactory indicator, the smell. So more like that. We'll start a new session now. Okay. Pause this now. Okay, so let's move on to the actual concept, that is acid. Now we have understood what is an indicator and how to use them. Okay, so here we talk about now acids. Acids are the kind of substances which contain H plus ion. That is, hydrogen ions are common in all the acids. Let us take any acid which we have already come across. So we all know that hydrochloric acid, which is present in our stomach. Then the king of acids is sulfuric acid, H2SO4. If you observe, both the acids have H as common. Similarly, you take any acid, either it can be naturally made or chemically made, it contains H plus ions. Okay, so we can define like this. Now, in acids, for example, you cut a lemon piece, okay, lemon, and you taste that. How does that give you the taste? It is sour in taste, right? Sour in okay, so it is sour. So acids are basically sour. Okay, that is one property. And then in acids again we have two types. One is the weak acid, other one is the strong acid. or you can say the weak acids are naturally available acids. Naturally available acids, whereas strong acids are man-made acids. Or you can also call them as mineral acids. How do we prepare these acids? If we call it as man-made, how do we prepare? We take the mineral extracts from the earth and then prepare an acid. So we'll see what are these weak and strong acids. The natural acids are like, as I told, if you cut a lemon, it gives sour in taste. So it contains citric acid. Oranges, lemon, almost all citrus fruits will have citric acid, which is a natural one. And if you take the milk or the curd, especially curd, because curd has a sour taste compared to milk. So curd has lactic acid. Then tomatoes, okay, tartaric acid.
Tamarind.
Tamarind also contains tartaric acid.
Tomato.
Yeah, vinegar. Sorry.
Tomato.
Okay, sorry, tomato formic acid, right? Sorry, formic. So many like that. These are all naturally available and they are all edible acids. If you eat them, I not say it will not cause you any harm, but if you take them in excess also, it causes a problem to the body. So these are all edible acids and they are weak in nature. Weak means they cannot react much as compared to the strong acids. Usually strong acids are corrosive. If you drop a small cap of hydrochloric acid on a paper or on skin, it gives you the corrosion, which we have studied in the previous chapter. It gives a burning effect. Whereas these acids are comparatively non-corrosive, but they also give you the burning sensation. If you get some wound and if you spray citric acid over that, you get burning sensation, right? So these are all the natural acids. Then, talking about the strong acid. Strong acids are, and very commonly used acids, hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, nitric acid. So this is nitric, sulfuric, hydrochloric. This is present in our stomach itself, which is helpful in breaking down of the food or for digestion, chemical digestion. Hydrochloric and HNO3, that is nitric acids, are used to manufacture various chemicals and chemical substances. Okay, and these are all very strong in nature. These natural acids are also called as organic acids. Okay. Now, we will move on to the next concept. Why are these called weak or strong? Okay. So the concentrated acids are usually strong acids. Concentrated means the acid will contain less amount of water. If you check hydrochloric and sulfuric or nitric acids, the amount of or the quantity of water in them is less, hence they are very strong. Now let us say you take a glass of any juice, you drink that so you can feel that actual essence. But if you start adding water to that and then if you consume, the taste will gradually disappear. So you cannot feel the taste or the essence of the juice which you had originally. So a strong acid is a concentrated acid which contains less amount of water. Okay, so what is the opposite of this concentrated now? Dilute. The word itself says dilute is you make its power weak. Okay, you are making it, you are diluting it. Diluting is almost deleting it. Okay, which has more amount of water. So it is the one common thing, water. The more the water is dilute, lesser the water is concentrated. So we can definitely make a concentrated acid into a dilute acid, whereas the reverse process is quite difficult. You cannot take back all the water back from the acids. So how do we dilute an acid? We have a small step-by-step activity here. So let us take H2SO4 and water. So please don't make a mistake of putting water into H2SO4 directly. What happens? The H2SO4 is corrosive in nature and it can easily cause it is an exothermic compound. Okay, what is exothermic? It is capable of sending or throwing out the heat and fire to the environment. So putting water to that, what happens? We know that water can neutralize water. If there is some fire, if we pour water, it will come down or it will settle. But what happens here is, since it is very powerful, if you put water, the water will immediately turn into steam. Okay, the steam can catch fire. So that's the reason while diluting, we are not putting water into an acid, but the other way. We always put the acid into water drop by drop. It should not be the whole beaker should be filled up with the water and then put another beaker of acid. It should not be like that. It should be always drop by drop and start stirring it. What is the purpose of stirring it? If you keep on stirring it, then the sulfuric acid what you had will get diverted. It will not react immediately. Okay. So it will slow down the reaction. So how do we dilute an acid? There is a small activity here. For the dilution, take about 10 ml of water in a beaker. Okay, we are taking 10 ml of water, and for that, add few drops of concentrated sulfuric acid to the water, drop by drop. So now we are adding drop by drop H2SO4, which is concentrated. Okay. Then touch the bottom of the beaker. If you touch the beaker in which you are adding everything, it gives you hotness or it is a little heated. So this shows that this is an exothermic process. So very small activity, there is nothing to describe much. And no need of diagram also. But how do you dilute an acid? Okay, that's about the basic introduction for acid. Now let us understand the properties of acid. Properties means what? The behavior. What happens to an acid if it is poured on a metal, if it is poured on a hydrogen carbonate metal, kind of thing. And what is the taste of the, we have already discussed, what is the taste of the acid. All those behaviors will be formulated into properties. So acid introduction is over. Now we are going to properties of acids. Okay, so first property, what is the taste of an acid? So we cannot taste the hydrochloric or the sulfuric acid, but the other organic and weak acids can be tasted and it is sour in taste. What is the next property? So acid turns the litmus paper from blue to red. The litmus paper is turned from blue color to red. Okay, this is also a property, right? Then what else? So acids conducts electricity at their solution state. So acids in their solution state are capable to conduct electricity, which we have already studied. In the previous chapter, if you have seen the electrolysis of water, setting up all the experiment, we add a few drops of sulfuric acid. Why do we add sulfuric acid? Because acids are capable to decompose the ions, where the ions are capable to conduct the electricity. So that is the reason in electrolysis, if you remember, in the water and these all electrodes, we had H2SO4. What did the H2SO4 contribute here? It broke the water into OH and H plus ions. Correct? So water was decomposed into H plus and OH. Now these ions are capable to carry the electricity which was provided here from the water. We are connected to a battery, right? So this helped the ions to carry the electricity. Understood? So what is the third property of acid? Acid solutions conduct electricity. Why am I using solutions? Because solution means it contains water. Water means there are some ions. Okay, now let us say H2SO4. What are the ions? If we split this, H plus is there, SO4, 2 minus is there. Okay, so these are the two ions. If you remember in today's group, I have put the polyatomic ions just before the class, maybe half an hour, 40 minutes back. So I have given you some ions. Go refer that. Ions are capable of conducting electricity. Now these ions are called as electrolytes. Okay. So we still have many properties. So this is another property. Okay. So to prove that acid conducts electricity, we need to give an experiment or activity. So please note it down. So most of the acids react with the metals to form. I'm sorry. There is no activity for electrolysis. There is another property, that is acids react with metals to give hydrogen gas. Of course, they form salts. Along with the salt, evolution of hydrogen gas is very important here. This one also we have already done. So in the previous chapter, we studied in the evolution of gas, which was a characteristic of a chemical reaction. Magnesium, which is a metal, reacting with a acid. H2SO4 is what? It is an acid. Can you read? Acids react with metals. So this is an acid reacting with a metal. What is the result which you have written in your test? So it is MgSO4. Now what is this MgSO4? It is a salt. Okay, SO4 is a sulfate ion which combines with metals to form salt. Magnesium sulfate is a salt. So which I am telling metals to give hydrogen gas plus salt. Let us not bother about salt. We have to concentrate on hydrogen gas. So you people remember hydrogen gas was evolved. What did this hydrogen happen? It came to the product side to form a gas. To prove this, we need to conduct an experiment. So what is it? Take few pieces of zinc granules, the same reaction. I am changing with zinc. Zinc is also a metal. So take few pieces of zinc granules. Granules are a kind of powder or a pieces. Okay. Now these granules are taken in a test tube. Okay, we took that. Then what we need to do? And then you start adding the dilute sulfuric acid. Don't take concentrated. Dilute sulfuric acid will work. Add dilute H2SO4 drop by drop. Okay, because there should not be exothermic reaction. There should not be any fire or heat pops out. Okay, so add it slowly. Then what happens? As we know, zinc sulfate will be formed, which is a salt, which will be formed at the bottom. Now, there will be a kind of gas coming out, right? What is that gas? It is hydrogen gas. But how do we detect that gas is hydrogen gas only? So, how do we do that? So, this test tube is covered with a cork and then get a connection, a kind of pipe connection, which is again a glass tube, and put that in a small jar which contains soap bubbles. Okay, there should be soap bubbles, so the gas should enter the soap bubbles. So now the soap bubbles which was formed in the beaker here will come up, which will start rising into the space, okay, into the atmosphere. And now you bring a candle here, candle or a burning splinter. If you bring a candle which was glowing, the glowing flame will react with this gas bubble and gives a popping up sound. Popping up sound is it's like a sparkling sound. And remember, only hydrogen gas can create popping up sound. Other gases may give dazzling sounds or drizzling sounds, anything, but popping sound is given by only hydrogen gas. Okay, this proves that there is hydrogen gas evolved when a metal reacted with an acid. Okay, so what are the steps? Take few zinc granules, take them in a small test tube and add about 5 ml of dilute sulfuric acid drop by drop. And you observe that zinc sulfate is formed, which is a kind of, is it a precipitation? No, they have not described what happens to green granules. Yes, they will be they will be still in the test tube, but when it is precipitate or what, it is not mentioned. Okay, so the zinc sulfide will be present in the test tube itself, but the gas comes out of the test tube. So for that you need to get an extended connection, which a tube will continue and comes to a tub which contains soap bubbles or soap water. Once the gas come into the soap water, now you people also would have played, right? Soap water, when it is blown with a straw, it creates bubbles. So what is it you are providing? You are providing carbon dioxide, which is a gas. Here also we are providing a gas, which is H2. This makes the bubbles to come out, which is natural. You might have also seen, when you blow the air, the bubbles will come out. And near that bubbles bring a candle flame, which gives you a popping sound. Popping sound will decide it is H2 gas. Okay? So we'll move further. So that is about the property. You can give more examples. Many metals reacting with acid. The next property of acids are acids react with metal carbonates to form carbon dioxide gas. I think fifth one, right? So acids will combine with metal carbonates. When it combined with metal, it gave hydrogen gas. But now we are talking metal carbonates. Again, in polyatomic ion, I have told you CO3 minus this ion is carbonate ion. So it can be sodium carbonate, it can be hydrogen carbonate, or it can be potassium carbonate, anything. But CO3 is a carbonate. This metal and carbonate, let us say zinc carbonate. Okay, this is a metal, this is a carbonate ion. They both combine to give some salt. Along with that, carbon dioxide gas will be evolved. So how do we prove this experiment? So you can take any other, let us take sodium carbonate reacting with H2 HCl. Okay, so it gives us NaCl, which is a salt. Along with that, CO2 gases evolved. To continue the reaction, water is also formed. Okay, sodium carbonate reacted with hydrochloric acid, gave us a salt, a carbon dioxide gas, and water. Now we need to prove how is this gas formed, or what is the sign that tells us that carbon dioxide gas is formed. So there is an activity. Take about 0.5 gram of sodium carbonate in a boiling tube. Okay, I'll draw it here. So you will take a test tube kind of apparatus which has a boiling water already. Okay, this is called boiling tube, or you will be providing the fire outside the test tube. So in this boiling tube, take about 0.5 ml of sodium carbonate. So you put that, okay, and then add about 2 ml of dilute sulfuric acid. So please observe, we are taking all dilute acids to avoid the exothermic process. So we are adding dilute HCl. Hydrochloric acid is added. Now, the ending of this test tube is again extended using a glass tube, and there is again one more test tube brought near to that which will contain lime water. Okay. Now, what is this lime water? Lime water is calcium hydroxide. The other name for calcium hydroxide is lime water, which is readily taken, and we take that near the apparatus here. Okay. There is one more point given because excess of carbon dioxide can also pass out. Now, or to add the acids or anything. So here, if you observe carefully, there is a gas coming. We don't know what gas it is. Once this gas combined with lime water, the lime water turns milky in color. It turns whitish in color. Okay, which was not earlier. Lime water was not milky in color, but now it turned into milky. And which is an added information. When lime water combines with carbon dioxide, it gives a milky color. So this tells us that the gas which is coming inside this test tube is carbon dioxide. Further continue to provide the carbon dioxide. It keeps on coming, let's imagine. The same milky color is now turning into a clear liquid. The same carbon dioxide can vanish all those milky appearance and it gives a clear, like taking a fresh water in a glass. Okay, the fresh water is colorless, right? So it becomes like that. Lime water combined with carbon dioxide gave us milky color. Again combined with CO2, it gave us clear liquid. So this tells us that the gas which is evolved is carbon dioxide gas. Okay, which is a simple activity. And it is suggested that if a person is suffering from acidic problems or acidity, gastritis, so that person is suggested to take a baking soda or a base related or a base containing food. For example, baking soda. Okay, what does that do? Because there is an acid inside his stomach, if we consume the basic soda, it will neutralize, which we will be studying at the end of this chapter, neutralization reaction. Okay, why I am telling this? Because it is also a property of acid. Okay, acid combining with a base gives us salt and water, which is a neutralization reaction. Okay, I'll erase this. We are going on to the next property, acid reacting with base. So which is the sixth property. What's the time? 6:25. Okay. So whenever an acid reacts with a base, it gives us a salt and water is formed in it. So we can take any example. So one acid, hydrochloric base, is, we have not still touched the topic, but a very famous and well-known base is sodium hydroxide. So they both combine to give a chemical reaction, that is, here the double displacement reaction will take up. What is double displacement? An element in one compound replaces another element of the other compound of the reactant. So H will combine with OH ion to form water. So one H here and a O, H2O. So what happens? That is one displacement. Even the Na combines with Cl, which is another displacement, hence it is double displacement. So NaCl is a salt, that is sodium chloride. Okay, so that is an example. Now we have another activity. So more the activities, so you have to start writing diagrams and step-by-step reaction. What is it? So take about 5 ml of dilute, the same reaction only, we are putting it into an activity. Take about 5 ml of dilute sodium hydroxide. So we took dilute NaOH, which is a base. Okay. Now in a test tube and add about 2 to 3 drops of phenolphthalein indicator. So what are we doing? We are adding 2 to 3 drops of phenolphthalein indicator, which we studied in the beginning of this chapter. So this solution will turn into pink, isn't it? Colorless phenolphthalein remains colorless in acid. It turns pink in base. So it has to turn pink. Then what happened? Now add dilute hydrochloric acid to the above sodium hydroxide solution drop by drop. So we had taken NaOH, we added phenolphthalein, which became pink in color. Now for this we are adding dilute HCl drop by drop. What happens? Let's see. So this solution turns colorless. Yes. So what happens? Now this becomes colorless because we know that phenolphthalein combining with acid gives us a colorless liquid. So that's what happens here. Then at this stage, all the sodium hydroxide base taken in the test tube has been completely neutralized by the hydrochloric acid. So what are they trying to tell? The NaOH, which was pink in color, once HCl is added, it became neutralized. Neutralized is what? The property of acidic nature, the property of basic nature is gone. They have come to a neutral state. Neutral is neither acidic nor basic. That is water. We call water as neutral compound which is neither acidic nor basic. Okay, and then one salt will be formed, that is NaCl salt will be formed. So that's a small activity to tell the acid-base reaction. And the next property of acid is acid reacts with the metal oxides to form salt and water again. See, the same acid will react with metal oxide. What is this oxide? If I say zinc, that is a metal. Along with zinc, if I have an oxygen, it is called metal oxide. Similarly, calcium oxide, magnesium oxide, these are all oxides. It is the same reaction. Acid reacting with metal oxide gives us a salt and water. We will take a small activity for that. Guys, we have almost covered 3 to 4 activities. Each activities are very important. Okay, what happens? Let's see. So here they have taken copper oxide, which is a metal oxide, which is being reacted with hydrochloric acid. So what can we yes, very good. CuCl is a copper chloride. CuCl2 plus water is formed. This is a salt, this is water. How do we conduct this activity? Let's see. Take a small amount of copper dioxide, that is copper 2 then oxide. No, you can call copper 2 then oxide. It is not called dye. Okay, in a beaker, and then so we took few drops of small amount of, not drops, it is a solid. Okay, which is a solid. We took a small quantity of copper oxide in a beaker, which is black in color. Then what happens? Add dilute hydrochloric acid slowly by stirring it. So maybe this is highly reactive, so we have to stir that and add dilute hydrochloric acid and stir it well. Then we will find that copper 2 oxide has dissolved in hydrochloric acid to give a blue-green solution. So this gives a blue-green solution. So we know this is a liquid combined with this solid. So this gives a blue-green solution. So which tells us there is a acid reacted with a metal oxide to form salt and water. That liquid which is getting formed is water, and after few minutes, if you observe, there will be gradually a settlement here below. So which is a salt. So what salt it is? Copper chloride salt. Okay. So that is the property. Then the next property is acids are corrosive. What do you mean by corrosive? It is burning away or taking away the external surface of a metal or anything. So if acid is poured on any metal, the external surface is corroded or removed or eaten up. Similarly, the acids poured on the skin or the plants, it will destroy the cells or it will kill the cells. Hence, acids are called as corrosive, or they possess corrosive nature. The mineral acids cause severe burns on the skin and attack or eat up the materials like cloth, metals, wood, etc. So this is, why is this? Because they contain H plus ion, which is highly reactive, which reacts with metals or the living cells to destroy them. Okay. So those are the properties of acids. And what is common in each acids? If we list out all the acids like HCl, HNO3, which I said you will be doing, H2SO4, H plus ions are common. Let us take some organic acid. Okay, so we'll take the carbonic acid. Okay, we'll take acetic acid, CH3COOH, which is an organic acid. Okay, natural unit. Here also we see H is okay. This is OH. There are H plus ions. So if there is a question what is common in all the acids, H plus ion is the common thing which we can observe in each acid. So that is for today. So tomorrow we will be studying about the bases. Okay. So please revise this concept. We will look into the doubts in another 5 minutes.